I'm here with Megan Atkinson of Tennessee Tech Archives and Special Collections. What is your role here at Archives?
In the Archives, I'm in charge of the Archives and the Special Collections. We have 3 Archives assistants here as well, and basically what we do is we can collect, preserve, and provide access to the history of the university as well as the Upper Cumberland region of Tennessee.
Awesome.
And that means we're just kind of collecting unique documents. It could be anything from diaries to correspondence to now we collect things all the way down to websites because most of our history is digital at this point.
It's that day and age.
Yes.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about how is everything organized down here? I see all these different rows and columns. Are these in a specific order?
So I always say we're a little bit different than a library. A library, you go and you can find a subject, and usually everything on that shelf is going to be based on a subject. In an archives, all of the research you do, you actually have to come in, you sit with us. We watch you because I mentioned the nature of the materials are that they're unique. Yeah, but the materials that are back here are arranged in order of actually how we received them. And they take us cataloging and providing description for us to even be able to find them. So it kind of starts in the beginning. The beginning, our first record group is record group 1. It's going to be the Joel Evans papers. And in the topics that are even in those papers aren't quite like a book. You have everything all the way down to transportation and crime, correspondence from constituents. And then each collection is just kind of taking it as it is. And as long as we catalog it in our system, we can find it all the way down to going to a shelf and a box and a folder.
Yeah, I see a lot of boxes around here.
Yes. And we have 3,600 linear feet of material.
Wow.
And it may have even expanded since the last time I've done the count because it grows each time we get a new collection in.
This job requires a lot of patience.
Yes, this job is incredibly detail oriented. If someone they'll go through boxes, we look through the folders, you label the folders, you have to do data entry on the folders so that people do know how to find it. As well as, if we end up digitizing things, then that's a whole nother level because we're scanning and then we have to provide descriptions to that too.
Now, is it just you down here or?
No, it's myself and 3 other archives assistants. I have Jennifer Duar, Tammy George, and Jenny Huffman, and they all play various roles in the archives. So Jenny Huffman does our scanning, our digitization, as well as in the description involved in that. We share our materials locally, but we also share them with the world on what's called the Digital Public Library of America. And then she handles our social media. Jennifer Duar does all reference and taking care of students. I think this semester I have 18 students working for me, which is much more than normal, but she takes care of reference as well as the facilities. We consistently monitor this. And then Tammy George also does digitization, but she also takes care of managing materials that we need to collect from the university off the website and things like that.
Sounds like you've got a pretty solid team down here.
We have a great team down here.
Yeah, awesome.
Charles Faulkner Bryan of the Bryan Fine Arts Center. We have his collection of papers, and they include everything from recordings from his music, his handwritten sheet music, and then some of the cool things that he has also are all his family correspondence as well as his correspondence. Tons of love letters from his wife.
I don't even want to touch these. These just look so well preserved too.
But they are available to be touched. That's what I always like people to know. That's our job
so
is
I can hold this?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
I feel like I'm holding a national treasure.
Yeah. And we just make sure that we keep them arranged and organized in the manner that they were received.
Yeah.
But I think this is some his family records. But we have a number of materials that are obviously like this. His correspondence has tons of stuff with huge composers and folklorists and things like that. And it's pretty remarkable. I like the love letters the most, though.
Yeah, his handwriting is also pretty remarkable. Mine would not look like that if I...
No, they have to have some pretty good handwriting back then. So...
That's beautiful.
Okay, so as far as the archives that we have that represent Black History Month, we're going to have them across kind of multiple collections as well as multiple places. I mentioned we have the university archives, and from there we're going to have records from the Black Student Organization, Intercultural Affairs, so the Black Cultural Center. We'll also have photo services, different, sports photographs, as well as events that have happened at the Cultural Center. The Oracle newspaper, which is all actually scanned and digitized and text searchable and available online from the years that we started. If people are interested in what types of things were happening on campus in regards to, Black students attending Tech, it is a great place to start as well for all types of research. President Volpe took some pretty great strides in order to invite, more diverse student populations to the campus. And during that, he started the Commission on the Status of Blacks, and then he later worked with the Black Student Organization as well as a number of Black fraternities to establish the Multicultural Center, or the Black Student Organization, the Cultural Center that we have now. And they worked together to start that. So there's a lot of materials in those records. As far as the actual Upper Cumberland materials, which is the area that we talk about when it comes to the special collections, these are things that all come from outside the university. We do have Black history for this area from a number of political papers. We have the Joel Levins collection, and Joel Levins was one of our congressmen during the time of civil rights. So there is a lot of documentation in his papers for that. And I pulled out, this is just one thing.
Tell us what you're holding.
Yeah, so what I'm holding is actually a letter from Martin Luther King Jr. that he sent to Joel Levins in an effort to have him support the civil rights movement. And a lot of the Joel Levins papers, there's a lot of constituent correspondence. And you have a lot, you have opposing and then you have for. And he was receiving all of these letters from people in the area talking about how they're concerned about it or what their concerns were. So it provides a really unique perspective of people in the area discussing various parts of Black history.
What year was this?
This one was 1964, so it's right. This is the civil rights that, the bills that we're waiting for to happen that we know of today is the turning point for civil rights in the United States.
That's incredible.
So
yeah, and like you showed me over there, the fact that all of the letters, you have so many well-preserved letters from the letters that we looked at over there. Where were those? What time period was that from?
That time, those were 19th century, so I think they're about 1840.
And the fact that we have those sitting down here at Tennessee Tech, and not a lot of people know that we have these, this is incredible down here, and especially the preservation process. Is there any special care that you have to do for these documents, preservation-wise?
So we have a lot of different types of special care. So when it comes to paper documents, the simplest thing that we do is just remove metal fasteners so they don't rust. If you notice, staples, paper clips, just general clips. If you notice how we're sitting in here, it's actually really cold, and it's a good thing you wore a sweater today.
We both did.
I have to every day because one of the important parts about preserving archives is keeping them very cool as well as keeping your humidity down, because that prevents things such as mold and pests, and it also just protects the paper in general. So we do a lot of that. Other types of formats such as photographs as well as reel and film. Some of those materials we actually have to store in freezers, and that's to prevent them from deteriorating as well.
Yeah, so upstairs in the cafeteria, you've got your frozen pizzas and then archives.
Yes, but we don't keep them with the food. So we do prevent food and everything from going down here. But yes, it is almost, a lot of times people do come down and they're like, why do you have so many freezers? So that's why that happens, because we need to store some of the materials in freezers.
Right, of course, yeah. Awesome, thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
I'm sitting with Coach Bree today. I'm Tyler.
Nice to meet you, Tyler.
Nice to meet you. We're talking about a really special time, Black History Month, a really influential part of American history. And the first question I want to ask you is, what does Black history mean to you, especially in sports?
Yeah, Black history means so much to me, just being an African American. I just think about how far African Americans have come, not only, globally, but in this nation, in the United States. Being able to be an African American female in this industry is just a blessing. And I think it goes hand in hand with what we teach our kids: determination, being courageous, being honest, sacrifice, all those types of things. So Black History Month is a very important time. I think Tech has done a great job celebrating it and promoting it. It means a lot to our student athletes. I think those of color and those and those who may not understand, what Black History Month means. But I applaud Tech and everything that they've done this month, and just in general, not just this month, but the inclusion and the diversity that we see on campus, and especially in our sports. I think it's tremendous.
Yeah, I just feel like it brings everybody together, all races, gender. Like you said, Tech has done a great job as far as race and making sure that everybody's equal, and it's just a sense of community that we need that we can improve on. We could always improve on.
Sure.
But just bringing that sense of togetherness that we need in our society.
Absolutely.
How do you feel like we as a society have improved in diversity in coaching and hiring coaches?
I mean, it's just become more and more prevalent in this day and age, especially in not only high school sports, but you look at collegiate sports, you look at professional sports, and there are more African American coaches on the sideline. There are more women on the sideline. I mean, up until 5 or 6 years ago, the NFL had never seen a female ref. No one had ever seen a female ref, but to see women of color who are now refereeing both men and women's games, I mean, it's tremendous. Like you had made mention before, what Coach Prime has done at Colorado and Jackson State, and Coach Don Staley at South Carolina. I mean, these notable coaches who are taking the world of athletics by storm, being of color, and being proud in that, and not being afraid to stand in who they are and share that with their fan base, but share it with the United States. And sports and athletics has a way of bringing people together, like you said, the inclusion and the togetherness and the diversity. And I just think it's such a beautiful thing that these women of color, these men of color, these coaches of color get to do with their sport. So it's tremendous to watch, and I'm just super excited to see how it continues to grow and what it does for this nation and what it does for their student athletes.
Yeah, and Dawn Staley, I mean, she's won a couple national championships in South Carolina. She's probably going to win another one as we speak.
Knock on wood. If Tennessee Tech doesn't do it.
That's right. That's right. And Deion Sanders, John Thompson's a really good one. Really
Absolutely.
Influential figure in not just sports history, but American history.
Absolutely.
And I would really love to see to continue to grow as far as hiring diversity in sports. And not just in the sports, but in any aspect of life.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I just said that sense of togetherness and willing to adapt, and just I really think that Tennessee Tech does a great job at that. But there's still room for there's always going to be room for improvement in any aspect of life. But on the flip side of that, what do you feel like needs to improve as far as diversity in sports?
I think, like you've made mention, there's always room for improvement. I think just the unity. I think people understanding what they don't know. My parents always tell me you don't know what you don't know, but I think the support that people of color have received over the years, over the decades, I think it has been a testament to the growth and where we are today. And I just think with knowledge and understanding and unity, we can continue to progress as individuals, whether we look the same, whether we don't look the same. So like they said, we're never going to be finished. There's always going to be room for improvement. But I think we start with understanding and listening and accepting. I think acceptance is a big thing. And like you said, on Tech's campus, we really pride ourselves with that. I know that I can speak for women's basketball. Coach Roseman does a great job with just the inclusiveness of everybody, making sure that everybody's comfortable, making sure that everybody has a voice and everybody feels safe with their platform. So I can't speak for every other team, in the nation, but I can for sure speak for Tech. And I know that our administrators and our staff members are putting our student athletes in the best position possible to be heard, for their stories to be heard, for their feelings to be heard. I think that the kids of color have done a tremendous job of expressing how they feel when they're uncomfortable, when they are comfortable, standing firm in who they are. So I just love it. Dr. Rob on campus, he's been a tremendous pillar with the multicultural affairs and all that. Mark Burnett, I mean, there's literally people right on this campus who have impacted, the lives of kids of color and kids, who just don't know. So Tech is doing a great job as far as diversity and inclusion, and I'm just super excited to see the growth as it continues.
Yeah, and to your good point, I just think being more educated, just having more education.
Absolutely.
HBCU is a really good example of that, making sure that people know more about culture and more about diversity, and making sure like how far we've came as a society and
Absolutely.
what can we do to improve on that aspect of life. I mean, it's not going to be an overnight fix.
Right.
So our issues in society, but what can we do to educate the youth and how we can make this world a better place?
Sure. I think that, like you said, just the understanding, just accepting people, knowing that they don't come from the same places, they don't look the same, they don't think the same, they don't talk the same, they may not come from, the same household that you did or the same socioeconomic background that you did. But I think just being good to people, just being good to people takes care of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And like I said before, you don't know what you don't know, but you just never know someone's story, whether they look like you or whether they don't. So just being accepting and being understanding and being willing, you being willing and being open to someone else's story or someone else's perspective. And like I said, we're never going to be done, hopefully I live many, many more years. And then even after that, we're still not going to be done. My children, they are not going to be done. Your children, they're not going to be done. But I just think that if we continue to accept people for who they are instead of who we want them to be, I think the growth will continue to trend. So
that is exactly spot on. That is exactly spot on. And just treat people how you've always wanted to be treated.
You bet.
And that's how I was raised. And I've always treat people with the utmost respect, regardless of race and regardless of gender, and making sure that we as a society do better at that. And the last question I have for you, and I feel like is the most important question, is who is your biggest role model? Who is your biggest role model when it comes to Black history?
Oh, goodness.
And the celebration of Black history?
Oh, goodness, Tyler, that's a hard one.
That's why I saved it for last.
That's a hard one. I've been blessed to be raised in a two-parent household where mom and dad were both very present from the time I was born up until now. So family is so important to me. Obviously my mom and dad, I'm the youngest of three. And I've just had role models, and not all my role models have looked like me. There have been several, races and genders who have impacted my life. So I would definitely credit my mom and dad. It definitely started in my household. I would credit my brother and sister because they held me accountable. They were literally extensions of my parents when my parents weren't around, whether they were at work or whatever. And being the youngest, I kind of didn't have a choice but to listen to them. But I mean, grandparents, aunts, uncles, I've been blessed to have a family that is, banded together and taught me discipline and taught me respect and kindness and generosity and that type of thing. So I don't think I can pinpoint one person, but I can definitely thank my immediate family, and it started in my household. So
I would say one person that I really look up to is Deion Sanders.
Sure.
And he is just a phenomenal figure in sport, not just sports, but in the United States overall.
Absolutely.
And just what he does, his buy-in to his players, and he's saying like, look, we are family, and we'll do everything for each other. And
right.
To me, that stands out for an athlete, because like, hey, my coach believes in me. My coach wants me to succeed, not just in sports, but in the classroom.
Sure.
And in family. And like you said, family's everything to me.
Yeah.
I love just the ability of having that community and family in not just sports, but in real life. And I really admire him, and I will always admire him. And if I'm a player, I would love to play for Coach Prime.
Sure.
Absolutely. But I appreciate your time.
Awesome, Tyler. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Alrighty, I'm alongside Josiah Davis.
Wow.
You been doing okay?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Very
sir.
good. We're going to be talking about Black History Day and just a wonderful time and just a sense of community
Right.
in our society. What does it mean to you to being such a great role model for young kids, regardless of race or gender?
I feel like that I play a vital role in that. You know, obviously I grew up watching a lot of great role models and a lot of great athletes. I think they paved the way for me. And I think I just want to continue their legacy, obviously, with being an athlete, being an African-American athlete at that. Just being able to lead the way and continue the path that other athletes have started for us.
What do you feel like needs to improve in our society? You know, I feel like the game has grown tremendously, not just in sports, but in life in general, as far as bringing a sense of community.
Yeah.
What can we do to improve in our society, in your opinion?
What can we do to improve is just embrace each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we always talk about we want society to be a lot better, but I feel like the most important thing to make a society better is embracing each other. We're nothing without each other, so
That's
I feel
right.
like in the sports world we're starting to embrace each other, but we should also do that in society as well.
The last question I was going to ask you, who are some players that you grew up watching as a kid that was influential to you, that made you, that wanted you wanted to become a basketball player?
Major people, a lot of people, obviously LeBron James. LeBron James has done so much for the game, not only on the court but off the court. You know, he's paved the way
Absolutely.
for kids who don't have a lot of things that other kids have. Kobe Bryant, he's embraced the mentality, and to everybody, if you don't want to play hard, then maybe the game is not for you, or maybe you should try another sport.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, obviously, Magic Johnson. A lot of those guys, I mean, obviously you have some guys in the NBA today like Joel Embiid and Damian Lillard, and those guys who are making way for their countries and making the way for everybody just to give back to the community in a way, shape, or form. I feel like that's the way for me. I mean, like, God put me in a position to be here, and I feel like I should use basketball as a platform to not only embrace each other, but embrace His word and embrace what we do within the sport.
Yeah.
So,
And just making sure to, I mean, all these players have paved the way.
100%.
And like you said, Kobe Bryant was phenomenal, not just on the court, but
Well,
off the court.
Right.
Michael Jordan,
Right.
not just on the court, but off the court. LeBron is a really good one
Yeah.
for what he's done for communities. I mean,
Exactly.
he made a school,
Right.
and I promise school. And it's just beautiful to see how the game has grown, not
Right.
just on the court, but off the court as
100%.
well.
100%.
But I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate your time.
you.
As we continue throughout the month honoring Black history, may we remind ourselves year-round of the great influence African Americans have on our campus, our country, and our culture. Our team appreciates all participants of this episode who have provided us with their time and knowledge. I'm Sarah Koo, and thank you for joining us on the Golden Report.